and what Switzerland and Taiwan have in common. I'll present you some facts and figures about Switzerland if you're interested to either going there for university studies or also just for fun. I'll give you an introduction of the Swiss education system in general and give you an overview of where you can possibly study in Switzerland, why to study in Switzerland, but I'll also talk very briefly about costs, possible funding and visa requirements, and then I am very happy to answer any questions you may have. Now, this presentation is not specifically about one university, but we have a mandate of Swiss universities, which is the umbrella organization of all public universities in Switzerland. So the idea is really to give you a broad overview of what you can expect about the Swiss education system and the Swiss universities at large. Trade Office of Swiss Industries, we are located in the International Trade Building in the WTC, next to 101. We were established first in 1982, so it's been quite a while that the Trade Office of Swiss Industries is present here. Overall, our mandate is to represent Swiss interests in Taiwan. That is very specifically, especially in the trade and commerce sector. So we have around 120 Swiss companies registered in Taiwan. And there is a very vivid trade between Taiwan and Switzerland. But we also offer services in the consular section. So we have around 450 Swiss citizens registered in Taiwan who've been living here mostly for a very, very long time. But also short-term stays for Swiss companies who send their representatives. We offer visa services as well, and the reason why I'm here, we represent Swiss interests when it comes to education, science, and culture, and to exchange there. What do you know about Switzerland? Maybe some of you already know. But Switzerland is really located in the heart of Europe. By the way, let me mention this now. We will have a quiz at the end of the presentation, so pay attention. There's a gift bag for the winner. So yes, Switzerland is famous for many things. I mean, the cliches you might know is the Alps and Heidi, our banking system, cows, cheese, chocolate, watchmaking. So those are the stereotypes of Switzerland. But of course, Switzerland is more than just that. And I want to point out some similarities that I have experienced since I'm here in Taiwan, which I appreciate a lot. As you know, or might know, we have the Alps in Switzerland, a mountain ridge going from France through Switzerland, northern Italy and Austria, and we actually have 50 mountains that are higher than the Jade Mountain, which I love. I've been to Yushan, and it was a fantastic experience. So I love the mountains in Switzerland and here in Taiwan. We share 5 borders. So in the south, Switzerland borders Italy, in the west France, in the north Germany, in the east Austria, and the Principality of Liechtenstein. We are also called the Water Castle of Europe. We have over 1,500 lakes in Switzerland, a lot of rivers as well, which are not only important for transportation, the Rhone and the Rhine, who connect Germany and France, which are used also in the shipping industry, but our lakes and rivers are famous for being very clean and suitable to swim in and enjoy, especially in summer. In winter it's a bit too cold, not recommended. The Swiss population is roughly 9 million people as of this year. I think what really makes up Switzerland is multilingualism. Some of you might have heard that. I mean, our neighbors, they mostly speak one language, but we have 4 official languages in Switzerland. German being the biggest one, or actually a form of German. We call it Swiss German, which is quite different from the German. But it's only a spoken language. So when we come to writing and official communications, we use standard German as they would use in Germany. So about 62% of the population speak German. Then we have roughly a quarter speaking French, mostly in the western part of Switzerland. And in the south, we have Italian speaking plus. And this is interesting, we have a very small language, 0.5% of the population speak Romansh. But it is important for us that all 4 languages, regardless how big or small they are all official languages. So that means not one language is superior over the other. Also, all laws and regulations are published at least in 3 of the 4 languages, a bit less in Romansh because it's really very small, but nonetheless, they are official languages of Switzerland. Switzerland was officially founded in 1291, so quite long back. However, our current constitution, which is one of the oldest in the world and in Europe, dates to 1848. So that's the constitution which is still making up Switzerland nowadays. In terms of surface, we are a bit larger than the island of Taiwan, but again mentioned smaller in terms of population. And what is very interesting, if you look at the map here, we have a very similar picture in Taiwan. We have the mountains here, so very sparsely populated. And for us, the majority lives in the lowlands in northern Switzerland, whereas here it's more the west of the island. Also interesting, Switzerland has 25% foreign nationals living permanently in Switzerland. So a quarter of the population is not Swiss, which also makes Switzerland a very interesting destination for foreigners, because it is quite common for us to welcome foreigners, and it's easy to find the way around, especially in the larger cities. I'm not going to go too much into it, but I still want to highlight 2 or 3 interesting aspects of the Swiss political system because we consider it quite unique. We are a very decentralized country, so federalism for us is very important. We have a total of 26 cantons or provinces, and each of them have their own government, parliament, and even their own constitution. So politics is also very decentralized, although we do have a federal government, but the cantons have a lot of decision-making power when it comes to education, taxation, and regulations at large. Also very interesting about Switzerland is one of the very few, very direct democratic systems. So if you are a Swiss, you can vote on many things which sometimes we even consider them a bit weird. So for example, last year we had a vote on whether we should cut the horns of the cows or not. So you sometimes have to make an opinion as a Swiss citizen on topics you might not be very familiar with, but we are also very proud of that direct democracy because we have a say in many aspects of our popular life. Also interesting, we don't have really a head of state, so we have 7 federal councillors. Those 7 are like ministers, each of them has 1 ministry, and those 7, they constitute the Federal Council, and there is not one leader of the 7, so they have equal say. And what is very interesting there is they have to come to a conclusion when they make political decisions, and once they decided, even if 1 or 2 were against it, as a whole, they have to represent at the end of the day that decision. So towards the outside, it's always a unified opinion of those 7, even though they are from different political parties, etc. And that's very, very interesting. So there is also the so-called magic formula among the 7, representing the different regions of Switzerland, the different languages of Switzerland, and the different political parties. Towards the outside, we sometimes still need someone who is called a president. So we actually, among those 7, we have a presidency which lasts 1 year, and it just rotates among the 7. So 1 year you have someone who is the president, next year the next, but the president doesn't have any superiority over the others. Also very important in the heart of Europe, Switzerland has a very strong commitment to neutrality. So it's even enshrined in our constitution. We call it armed neutrality, meaning Switzerland is also able to defend itself, but we do not interfere in any way or form in disputes that are outside of us. And that makes Switzerland very interesting, especially when it comes to Western Switzerland. I'm sure you all heard about Geneva, which is really one of the international capitals of the world when it comes to international organizations, the UN system, the International Committee of the Red Cross is headquartered in Geneva, etc. Very briefly about the Swiss economy, and I'll not go into too much details here, but the backbone of the economy of Switzerland are small and medium-sized enterprises, just like here in Taiwan. So 99% of Swiss companies have less than 250 employees, so it's really the majority of our economic power comes from medium and small-sized enterprises. Switzerland is very strong in pharmaceuticals, machinery, and precision instruments, also hosting the headquarters of very well-known companies such as Roche and Novartis, who are also present here in Taiwan. And actually, the chemicals and pharmaceutical industry is Switzerland's largest exporter, making up 50% of our total annual exports, or 7% of GDP. Also interesting fact, Switzerland has over 500 watch companies, so the Rolexes is a stereotype, yes, but it's also an important industry in Switzerland, and actually Swiss watches make up 80% of the global market share. So very likely that the Swiss watches are also represented in here. Bilateral trade between Taiwan and Switzerland amounts to approximately 4.2 billion Swiss francs. Most of it being machinery and electronics, but also vehicles and precious metals are important exports of Switzerland to Taiwan. Exports to Switzerland, sorry. And imports from Switzerland to Taiwan are mostly chemical, pharma, but then also luxury goods such as the watches and machinery. Interesting fact, I don't know if I have a picture here. this is a 1,000 Swiss franc note. So in comparison to the 1,000 NT note, it has a bit more value. So this is the highest valued bill in the world, which one bill is the equivalent of roughly 36,000 NT. One bill. It's not that we carry that in our pocket every day, but it's a fun fact. Usually we have 100 Swiss franc bills is kind of the highest we would carry out. So this is rather the exception. But also very important for Switzerland is innovation. So innovation in Switzerland is crucial because we have an education system of exceptional quality, and very importantly for being innovative is the fact that public authorities and the private sector heavily invest in education and research. Switzerland actually just this year has been nominated the most innovative country in the world for the 13th consecutive time. So this is a mix actually of patents registered per capita, but then also output in terms of startups, products, etc. So that's definitely something I would like to highlight here at the education fair, because a very strong innovation driver for us is our education system. I'll get to that, of course, in a few moments. But before heading on to that, just some fun facts about Swiss culture. We eat a lot of cheese, that's true. We eat molten cheese either in form of fondue or raclette, which is also very stereotypical, but it is also more than that, of course. Switzerland has also some traditions that are considered truly national, such as, of course, Christmas and Easter. But then we have very different vacations by regions. One of the very interesting parts is actually in our school system. Everybody in the months of February, it depends a bit which week, depending on the region, but has 1 week for the kids to go to the mountains to learn skiing. So it's part of the basic education in Switzerland to learn skiing or snowboarding. Either is possible. But then we also have a lot of famous writers from Switzerland or architects which have influenced beyond the borders of Switzerland. I will not go into the details here, but maybe you've heard of the architect and designer Le Corbusier, which is worldwide famous for its Bauhaus design and architecture style. But that's why you're here. So we're talking a bit more about the Swiss education system. So it's a very important pillar for the economic success of Switzerland, which really lays the foundation also for its innovation, as mentioned before. So 5 of the Swiss universities are in the top 100, even though being a small country, I think that makes up a very good share. However, for us, and this I have to mention here as well, because university ranking seems to be a very important criterion often for choosing a university. In Switzerland, actually, and we'll look at the different universities we have. In Switzerland, when we choose our university, we almost never look at the ranking, because it simply doesn't matter that much, because there is quality guaranteed in all of the Swiss universities, regardless where you study. for us Swiss, when we choose our university in Switzerland, it's more important the degree you want to pursue, the linguistical area where you want to focus on. You want to go more to the French-speaking part to enhance your French skills during university studies, or do you want to go maybe even to the Italian-speaking part to learn Italian? So there's different considerations, and ranking for us is not that important, as we know the quality is good wherever we go. I mentioned the innovation before, but another important factor in Switzerland is, of course, its safe and high quality of life and infrastructure. We have one of the densest networks in terms of public transportation in Switzerland, covering not only the cities and the rural areas, but especially also the Alps. So in Switzerland, you can actually go to the top of Europe, as we call it, by train, up to 3,000 meters. There's a train going up there, but also the boats on the lakes are part of the public transport system. It's a very flexible educational system in Switzerland. So actually what's an interesting fact about Switzerland is that we focus very highly on practical skills. So actually we have a dual education system in Switzerland, which means you don't necessarily have to go to high school, but you can actually do vocational training, which is a combination of vocational training in a company, accompanied by theoretical learning in a school. And so actually in Switzerland, only 40% of young people pursue a high school diploma. 60% they go through the vocational training path. And it's very interesting because often when you talk about vocational training, you think that you become a mason and that's where it stops. So in Switzerland, even if you do vocational training to become a mason, for example, you have the possibility with the accompanied school to get a higher degree and access university at a later stage. So it's not if you go through vocational training that you are stuck on that track for the rest of your life, but it really allows you to diversify. And actually the fact that we have such a high rate of people going through vocational training is a huge added value for our private sector, the small and medium-sized companies, which really manage to train professionals through that system, who can then even later still go to university. That's what I mentioned here. And again, here, visualization of that. So you can access universities through either a high school diploma or at a different path through the federal vocational baccalaureate. People who did vocational baccalaureate usually go to universities of applied sciences in Switzerland, which are even requiring from their students that they bring practical work experience with them often. And so here the focus is really much on practical knowledge, whereas in the universities and federal institutes of technologies, we focus more on engineering, laws, etc. Plus we have a system of universities for teacher education, which then train people either in the high school area or in the vocational system. Typically, the academic ladder in Switzerland takes quite a while. Overall, we are part of the Bologna system, which also makes degrees from Switzerland versatile globally, especially in Europe. And a bachelor typically in Switzerland lasts 3 years. Linked to that, a master degree is between 1.5 and 2 years. and the PhD is usually between 4 to 5 years. Now, where can you study in Switzerland? As mentioned before, here is pretty empty because you have the Alps. Doesn't mean that they're not educated there, but simply fewer people live there. In southern Switzerland, we actually have 2 universities, one classical university, one university of applied sciences in Lugano, that's the Italian-speaking part. Then we have western Switzerland, some bilingual cities in between, and we have 2 Federal Institutes of Technology, so those are marked green. They're usually also pretty well known abroad. One is the ETH in Zurich, and the other one is the EPFL in Lausanne. Both top-class university when it comes to engineering, computer sciences, and science and technology at large. In Switzerland, we have a free choice of university, so even if you're from Eastern Switzerland, you can study wherever you want in Switzerland. Of course, you need to fulfill the admission requirements. But as mentioned earlier, for us, more important than the ranking is language majors, and then very important criteria, which also I advise to foreign students going to Switzerland to look at, is which city do you actually want to live. Each city and its environment, university environment, has different pros and cons. I would say Geneva is really the hub for people who are interested in international relations, the UN system, etc. Lausanne, of course, very strong focus on technology with EPFL, and being a beautiful city and one of the largest lakes in Switzerland, the Lake of Geneva. Zurich and St. Gallen, so the east, very much focused on business as well. Both very, very beautiful cities. I would say the most international city in Switzerland is probably Zurich. Also the largest, by the way, although for Taiwanese standard, 1 million city is not very big, but that's our largest city, Zurich. And Basel being very well known for its pharmaceutical sector, and also the cooperation or collaboration between universities and the pharmaceutical industry in the north. I will not go into too much detail, but here an overview of the different universities. Again, ETH, EPFL, with a focus on technology, natural science and engineering. Then the different universities all over Switzerland, they have different focal points. And there, I will show you a QR code later. And if you pass by our stand, we really advise you to go to a website called studyinswitzerland.plus. It's the umbrella organization of all universities, which really also highlights the specialities of the different universities and the different degrees at hand. Smaller universities sometimes don't offer English degrees, but only German or French, depending on where they are located. But the bigger universities in the big cities, they definitely offer a big variety of degrees in English. So here we have the University of Applied Sciences in addition. As I mentioned earlier, the University of Applied Sciences, I studied in this one, in the University of Applied Sciences Northwestern Switzerland. They have 3 campuses, Olten, Basel, and Bruck. They also offer a large part of their degrees in English. But the universities of applied sciences focus very much on the practicality of their studies. So there's a lot of projects that are in cooperation with the private sector. So many students during their university time at University of Applied Sciences, they do have projects directly with the private sector, so it's also very interesting in that regard. So definitely something worth checking out as well. In addition, Switzerland is also famous for its hospitality and hotel management sector. I will not go into too much details here. They are private universities. It also means that tuition fees are usually higher than in the public universities. But Switzerland definitely has a very good reputation in its hospitality sector. So if that's something you are considering, we also have 2 hospitality management schools represented here. So do pass by their stands if you want to know more about that. There was one slide missing, but I'll mention this to you verbally. So actually some fun facts about people who studied in Switzerland, who are Swiss. So actually Switzerland has one of the oldest libraries in Europe. It's called the Abbey Library of the University of St. Gallen. It was actually founded, I have the figure here, or no? No, I don't have it here, but it's 14 something. So really one of the very, very old libraries in Europe, which has a very impressive collection as well that is accessible to students and the public. Then we have Albert Einstein. He actually first studied in ETH Zurich, and then later he did his PhD at the University of Zurich. We also had Kofi Annan, who was the 7th Secretary General of the UN system, very famous figure, who also won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2001. So he studied international relations at the Graduate Institute in Geneva. We have Felix Bloch, who was the first director of CERN, the Nuclear Research Center and the particle accelerator in Geneva. He was a Swiss-American physicist and Nobel physics laureate who worked mainly in the US, and he graduated from ETH and later also won the Nobel Prize for Physics for the development of new ways and methods for nuclear magnetic precision measurements. But we also have the German-Swiss poet Karl Hermann Hesse, who those who study German is definitely a name. He actually studied in Switzerland as well, and I think that's it. I would say we do a quick quiz, and then I'm open for your questions. Or you want to do the questions first? Quiz.
No way.
I can't.
Remember, there's a prize. So you all know how Kahoot works? So yeah, you can scan the QR code. Should be big enough.
Maybe I stop here first.